Hi! This time we're going to take a look, or rather a sneak peek, at the illustrated edition of the classic horror story At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft, of course, and this is illustrated by the critically acclaimed artist François Varangère. Now, François Varangère has worked as the concept illustrator for films such as Harry Potter, The Clash of the Titans, Beauty and the Beast, and also video games such as Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, and of course, most of you, if not all of you, know who H.P. Lovecraft is. If you do not know who H.P. Lovecraft is, or if you're just curious on my thoughts and take on the master horror, I am going to put a link in the description below so you can check out a video that I released a few years ago talking about him. And for those that do not know anything about Lovecraft, let me read to you a quote of Stephen King that expresses everything that I consider about Lovecraft to be true. He said, H.P. Lovecraft has yet to be surpassed as the 20th century's greatest practitioner of the classic horror tale, and I couldn't agree more. So this is volume 1 of 2 books. These are hardcover books in large format, that is 262 by 350 millimeters folio format, containing lavish full spread images within its pages. So this book contains Lovecraft's poetry seamlessly integrated with this artist's particular interpretation of his story. I was given access to the digital art gallery for this book, so you will only see a small sample of what the book has to offer. Now I'm going to show you a few snippets, a few cutouts of the illustrations, while I give you my thoughts based on what they represent according to my own perception of the weird cosmic horror that only H.P. Lovecraft can communicate to us. Let's start by taking a look at the cover. And just a warning, there will be a few spoilers as I talk about these different illustrations. I really like it how in the cover you see the two protagonists moving through this snowy landscape of cyclopean horrors, of unfathomable secrets. The overall scale truly dwarfs humanity. Not just the individuals moving through this territory, humanity itself. There are many disturbing details about the creation of humanity within the Mountains of Madness. And this cover not only communicates the harsh climate, but also that sense of wonder, foreboding, and madness. The illustration that follows looks really exciting. It perfectly communicates that something is about to begin. An ill-fated expedition, perhaps. You see all of these fragments on the table. The map, the process of planning and discussing. You see the wisps of smoke coming from the pipe. The sunlight piercing through the particles in the air. It makes you feel like as if you are actually there. You are planning the expedition. You do not know what is going to happen, but deep down you know that extraordinary secrets may lie hidden within this journey. I really like the rendition of the landscapes and this picture of the mountains, of the sun just poking through clouds, through a foreboding and ominous environment. It communicates that light will offer no respite, no shelter from the cold and the horrors that await within this expedition. The huge shadow that projects itself over the members of the expedition feels more like a threat rather than a natural consequence of the environment. The perspective of the illustrations is also great. You really zoom into the expedition. You feel as if you are actually walking around, making preparations. You can feel the cold around you. And as you look up the mountains, awe-inspiring yet mundane vistas such as this awaken disturbing questions within you about the insignificance of humanity when compared to the greater scheme of the universe, of the cosmos itself. And just take a look at this image right here. You can see the cold trying to seep in through the window. The inside looks quite comfortable, particularly cozy. It looks like a fairly standard scene that you would expect to find in an expedition such as this, but you cannot help but think if that chill that is running down your spine is not just because of the harsh environment. It could also be tied to some primitive instinct of survival, of recognizing the otherworldliness of the situation at hand. as these men are literally penetrating into the secrets of the mountain. The darkness just below the machinery and before the eyes of the apparently steadfast group is a glaring example of the abyss staring right back at you. The next illustration is quite disturbing. Here humanity starts to question its knowledge about evolution, about science, about the workings of the world. The vision of what they have taken as normal, as logical, or perhaps have taken for granted has now been shattered with the discovery of these alien corpses. Are they actually corpses, or are they just in a state of dormancy, ready to awaken with ghastly revelations of undreamed civilizations? The next illustration shows the attempts of the expedition of trying to make sense of the recent findings. Humans find certainty and tranquility in categorizing and cataloging things, but this is beyond anything concerning science and philosophy. As humans perceive those fields of study, you simply cannot help feeling a bit paranoid. Are these beings going to rise up without a moment's notice? Or are there other horrors within these mountains that perhaps were a greater threat to these alien creatures? The analysis is also quite ghastly. You could make an interesting comparison. Are these aliens the only monstrous creatures in reality, in the universe? Or are humans, with their hunger for knowledge and studying that which seems to be completely unknowable, unfathomable, also contenders as a source of dread? With this other illustration, the sunset seems to emit a terrifying prophecy. The animals are not at ease. The entire environment changes, as if the discovery of those creatures was never meant to be. As if a Pandora's box, or perhaps the Ark of the Covenant, has been opened, and that which escapes the eldritch containers can no longer be kept under lock. The next illustration shows how the weather worsens. Is this actually natural? The Aurora Borealis confers little comfort in its beauty. Maybe there are other forces at work. Maybe there is something within the mountains that is causing this weather. It could be better associated with another one of Lovecraft's stories, but here you have to wonder if the harsh climate was the result of some primeval science, or perhaps even sorcery. And just take a look at this illustration. Flying across hidden and unexplored landscapes, the clouds and the mountains could be confused with forgotten structures and alien miasma that seems to whisper to the plane that it should go back, that it has no place within that region. And now that the members of the secondary expedition have arrived to contemplate what remains of the first expedition, the camp looks like a place of massacre. It is chaos. It is a promise of certain death. The entire scene is pure chaos and dictates that there are things that humanity should not know about. With each discovery that the expedition makes, the cosmic horror comes into full realization. Humanity is in its infancy when it comes to understanding the true nature of the planet and its inhabitants, specifically its first inhabitants. There are hints hidden within the words written by H.P. Lovecraft that the things that we contemplate, scenes of gore and disembowelment, could be seen as natural as snow falling upon the ground, as wind blowing through broken structures within this distorted landscape. The illustrations truly look very ghastly, but at the same time powerfully organic. You can almost smell the blood, barely attenuated by the ice. You can almost hear the wind. Perhaps you can hear an almost inaudible tekelili in the distance. But that will not stop the inquisitive minds of the protagonists of this story. They will still travel further in, beyond the restraints of their common sense. They need to find out what caused the death of the members of the former ill-fated expedition. But now they are delving even deeper into the origins of humanity and perhaps the planet itself. And just take a look at this illustration, showing you vistas of cyclopean wonders and the most ancient prehistorical tragedies. This city was not made for men. This city was made to accommodate an anatomy vastly superior to that of mankind according to a psychotic path of evolution. It is impossible to tell if these strange alignments, angles, protrusions, and arrangement of these structures was caused by the cataclysmic weather in this region since many million years ago, or if it was actually built like that from the very start as indicated by eldritch blueprints. You cannot help but wonder if these men are already possessed by a magnificent madness that prods them further, deeper into the city, despite the many revelations that are ramming themselves time and again against the surfaces of their minds, with each blow promising complete insanity. The illustrations truly enhance one of the things that I love the most about H.P. Lovecraft's works, and it's that need, that hunger to explore every nook and cranny of the structures mentioned in the story, despite the threat of getting lost or devoured by the natural and unnatural phenomena that you can find lurking throughout that landscape of nightmare and wonder. Anyone who contemplates such vistas truly wants to learn everything, no matter the cost. This final illustration that I am showing you perfectly communicates the morbid fascination that these men are surely experiencing as they press on into the unknown. And those are all the images that I can show you featured in Volume 1. This book is truly looking amazing. Something that I really appreciate of Francois Varanger's interpretation of Lovecraft's words is that they vibrate with a certain virility or masculinity. Whenever I read Lovecraft's stories, I almost never imagine the characters as particularly manly. There are some exceptions. Some particularly adventurous Lovecraftian characters do fare better when compared to others, but they are not the norm, they are the exception. But when it comes to the men participating in the expedition at the Mountains of Madness, these men are very capable. They are knowledgeable in different fields of science and survival. They are also quite physically fit for such an endeavor, for this sort of enterprise, and the illustrations communicate that perfectly. And that heightens the horror. You may end up thinking, if these capable, strong men found their demise in this place, what can the rest of humanity do against such horrors? Those that know what happens next at the Mountains of Madness are completely aware that even if you survive such an ordeal, you are marked for life. It's as if your mind has been eternally scratched by one of the many fragments that you could find within the city of the Elder Things. Well, thanks for watching this sneak peek. It truly looks like an amazing, wonderful book. Make sure you check out the links in the description below. You will find a code there that will give you a 20% discount during checkout at the publisher's website if you decide to buy this first volume. I think this is one of the best gifts that you can give to anyone that is a fan of H.P. Lovecraft and illustrations depicting or expressing cosmic weird horror. And you could also give it to yourself, of course. I think you truly deserve to spoil yourself as a Lovecraft fan. This book will surely become one of the greatest treasures within your library. Well, once again, thank you, and thank you so much to those that have been sending Drive-Thru-RPG gift certificates to support the channel. If anyone else wants to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. See you later.